to start off, we're just going to go over what the purpose of a U.S. Customs exam is. When you talk about U.S. CBP, there's a lot of things that roll around in people's heads. You know, CBP is Customs and Border Protection, so that's a multifaceted part of their job. On the one hand, we've got the physical borders that they protect, both at the northern border with Canada and the southern border with Mexico. So, you know, part of CBP is to physically be stationed at those borders and contain any issues that happen at the border. But another thing that people don't tend to think about is that we also have borders on both sides of the country, on the East Coast, the West Coast, obviously a little bit south with, you know, Florida and things like that. And CBP's really responsible for protecting those borders as well. And one of the ways in which they do that is they protect it by determining what is at risk if it's coming into our country. So their goal is to protect our nation's security, sovereignty, and prosperity, and our intellectual property and trademark material. And what that means is that if something is coming in that threatens, you know, recently the Section 301 and 232 tariffs were declared a matter of national security, and thus additional tariffs were applied. Anything that threatens prosperity, you know, you've got things like anti-dumping and countervailing duties. Those threaten the prosperity of certain countries or certain companies in the U.S., and thus CBP is responsible for implementing programs and things like anti-dumping and countervailing duties in order to protect the prosperity of those U.S. companies that make those same items. On the same vein, intellectual property and trademark material, that's really the focus of the Section 301 tariffs that have been going on for about 1.5 years now, maybe even a little longer than that, pretty close to 2 years at this point since the investigations began. So those are really some of the things that CBP protects against. They're somewhat responsible for enforcing protection of the U.S. environment. That's mostly through things which are called partner government agencies, things like USDA, FDA, EPA, Fish and Wildlife, anything like that. You might know them as OGAs, other government agencies, as they were referred to back in the day, but once we switched over to ACE, the Automated Commercial Environment, that terminology got changed to partner government agencies. Same organizations that are involved with, for the most part. A couple of them fell by the wayside, a couple new ones popped up.
And one of the things to remember about customs is they are the policing agent for all other government agencies. So USDA counts on customs to notify them if they see anything, they hear anything, if they see anything on the paperwork, if they know anything, and FDA and Fish and Wildlife and on and on. They really depend on customs when they're doing their job of inspection of the paperwork and inspection of the shipment. They count on them to police for them as well.
Absolutely. And you know, that word policing, I think, is really important because a lot of folks, when they have an exam with CBP, CBP becomes the bad guy. CBP is the one holding your freight hostage. CBP is the one who is, you know, causing your freight to be delayed when you've got a deadline with your client. And, you know, that's obviously something that is, you know, up to interpretation. It's a perspective thing. But just like with the police, you know, in your local city, part of their job is to just check and make sure that everybody is safe, check and make sure that everything is, you know, within the confines of the law. And when something isn't within the confines of the law, that's when they take action. Now, a customs exam, obviously, you don't necessarily have to have done anything wrong in order to have a customs exam on your freight. But if you think about it, let's say you are driving home on New Year's Eve. You've done nothing wrong. You're just driving down the highway. You've been to a New Year's Eve party. And what happens on New Year's Eve? There's DUI checkpoints. Those police officers are going to stop every single person who's driving down that road, regardless of whether or not they've done anything wrong, in order to check to see if everything is safe, if everything is above board. It's the same with CBP. It works a little differently, yes, but at the end of the day, customs examines things because they want to make sure that the people of the United States are protected. Obviously, you know, at the end of the day, that can mean money out of your pocket if there's an exam, but the end result is the country is safer because of what they're doing. And it's really important to remember that. Despite the fact that you're probably going to get frustrated if something gets on exam for an extended period of time, it's just really important that we keep in mind that their goal is to protect the people of the United States, the commerce of the United States, and that's really what the goal of these exams are for.
Thanks.